Good morning, Gladiators. Today is Monday, May 24th. Today we're going to finish our types of heroes. We're going to read the entire PowerPoint, watch the videos, and then you are going to do a discussion post. So it should be a pretty light day. I'd like for you to check any grades, any missing assignments. All grades will be due next Wednesday. So we know that an archetype is a pattern that you can find reoccurring in many pieces of literature. The hero is a person that is traditionally the protagonist, and they are a leader. Sometimes they are a savior. Sometimes they have to endure a lot of sorrow. So we went over warrior, such as Beowulf, yesterday. And we talked about the evolution of British heroes through British literature. An epic hero, like the Odyssey or Ulysses in the Odyssey. A tragic hero, such as Hamlet, Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean, and Severus Snape. So let's talk about an anti-hero. Anti meaning against, okay? So anti-heroes begin with traits that are very unbecoming of a hero, the opposite of a hero. They display qualities that are more like a villain, and sometimes they're conceited, they do immoral acts, they're rebellious, they're dishonest, and people, the audience, readers, do not view them with admiration. So they start off as average people, and they have a flaw that is inherent, that they're born with, some sort of flaw that goes against them being good. They range from being a good person with an unattractive vice or flaw to a criminal mastermind that could have a heart of gold. So here is the 10 animated villains that turn to heroes. So these are villains. They start off as villains, and they turn to heroes that would make them an anti-hero. Okay, so take a moment and watch this video. Remember, if any of these videos don't work for you, don't worry about it. Just move on. So some of the anti-heroes, Shrek, right? Shrek did not want to save the princess. He was doing it for his own benefit. He wanted to save the swamp, and ended up being the good guy. Wolverine, Hulk, Megamind. You could just even see by his picture here that he is not of a hero status, but ends up being a good guy. Despicable Me. Shylock from The Merchant of Venice. We talked about Shylock earlier when we did drama, and then Han Solo. So true to form, a villain is the bad guy or a bad girl, and they want to stop the hero archetype from achieving his or her goal. They're often evil. They have a warped reason to be. They're often want nothing more but to have control and power over everyone and everything around them. They are sometimes secretly strongly motivated by fear. Okay, villains often have a moral foil. Okay, so in your LMB, I'd like for you to write the word foil. A foil is a vice or a flaw that parallels, that's equal to the hero's main virtue or goodness. So it's the opposite of the good characteristic that a hero has. Okay. Here are two videos, the 10 classic villain archetypes, and then 10 animated movie villains who were actually correct. Okay. So you could watch both of these. If they don't work for you, then that's okay. We can just move on. Examples of villain archetypes in literature. So the White Witch in the Chronicles of Narnia, the Joker from Batman, or Lord Voldemort from The Lord of the Rings. The Joker is from the Batman series, DC Comics, and he essentially worships chaos. He is a direct contrast to Bruce Wayne himself, and he spends his life trying to restore who spends his life trying to restore order and safety in Gotham. Lord Voldemort of Harry Potter craves power because he wishes to overcome all weakness, especially the mortal weakness that scares him the most, which would be death. Harry faces his certain death with dignity. Voldemort drags himself back from the brink of death even when he barely exists anymore. The villains all have one thing in common. Their actions work directly against those of the heroes, but they also create the need for the hero's actions in the first place. So you can't have good without evil, and vice versa. So Bram Stoker is the author of Dracula. It is a modern day story like Once Upon a Time. They're bent on redeeming and softening every villain that enters the story. Stoker made it clear that Dracula is elementary evil. He has nothing but evil in him. That's all that he has. Then there's a story called Moby Dick. Moby Dick fits much more easily into the role of the antagonist. He chopped off Ahab's legs. He destroys countless boats and kills and maims other sailors. He's the enemy of which the Pequod is searching. Any idea who Moby Dick could be? It is a white whale. And he is the villain in the story. And he is eerie, and he's a dangerous adversary. But he doesn't pose a real threat to anyone who is not actively looking for him. Captain Ahab, on the other hand, has dedicated his life to looking for Moby Dick, to hunting Moby Dick. Sometimes Captain Ahab seems to be the antagonist to everyone in the novel because they have made Moby Dick at sometimes make you feel bad for Moby Dick because of Captain Ahab hunting him. And so the protagonist and the antagonist kind of switch places at times throughout the novel, and you'll have to determine who the antagonist is and who the protagonist is. So Ahab's obsession with revenge puts everybody on the ship in mortal danger. Ahab's refusal to consider profit or humanity or common sense before his obsession brings all the characters to their tragic fate. If you can imagine what that might be. Ahab is really the problem here, like Oedipus in another famous tragedy. They are their own worst enemies. So your discussion post today is, how is an anti-hero different from a hero and a villain? Okay, so you're going to focus on the anti-hero. Contrast it with the hero and contrast it with the villain. You should be able to define both the anti-hero, the hero, and the villain in your discussion post. And that's all I have for you today, gladiators. I hope you have a wonderful Monday.